you'll notice certain things in your life. If you're really good at something, there's probably been a lot of people in your life that said, you could sell these. You could do that for a living. Hello everybody, today I'm going to do something a little bit different for my channel. I'm going to be talking about how to start a small business. I just want to make it clear that I am by no means an expert in starting small businesses. I've only started my own. I'm going to tell you some tips, tricks, the process of how I did it along the way. If you didn't know, I am the owner of Elixirs, and I make perfume and jewelry. So that's the experience I'm going to be speaking from. I do apologize, there is a big storm that just started happening as I sat down to film this. I hope that the sound doesn't bother you too much. Where you go next really depends on where you're starting. So I'm going to lay it out in steps. And one thing I would definitely recommend is to find someone that's doing something similar or something that you can be inspired from and see maybe how they started. Maybe try to go back on their Instagram, go back on their YouTube videos, maybe even personally ask them what it was like to start their business if that's where you're at. Now, there's maybe two types of people that, maybe even three types of people that would find this video useful. There's going to be the people that really they're not sure what their passion is, but they've been really interested in starting a business. Maybe they have many different types of passions, but being an entrepreneur is one of them. There's going to be the people that already have a passion and they want to figure out how they can scale this and make this into something that's actually going to bring them money. And then there's going to be the people that already have a business and maybe just want to hear some tips and tricks. Actually, there might even be a fourth group of people that are just fascinated and interested to know the information. And maybe it's not something they're even planning on doing. For step number one, it is to find your passion. It's really to hone in on your passion. There's going to be some people, that have already started their business, are already doing something very specific like DJing or wire wrapping jewelry or anything along those lines. They're already doing something, they're already crocheting, maybe giving a service to people. But anyone else that is not particularly sure what route they want to go down, maybe they don't have any current hobbies at this time, or maybe they have too many. You can start a small business in about anything. You could start it in any form of art, of you creating art. It can be a product, a service. It can be anything from coding part-time, helping out other businesses with coding. It could be being a travel agent. It could be being a real estate agent, So the most important thing is that it is your ultimate passion. You love it with your whole heart. You don't want to be getting into a small business where you're pouring so much time and energy into this thing and realize that it's really not for you. You want to figure that out early on. I think it is good to try different things if you have that capability. It really highly depends, if you were doing something like crocheting or painting, I think it would be easy to get enough material to start this project with, maybe $50. Maybe you can save from your other job. And that's another thing I want to mention is that you really should have another job, another source of income, someone who is supporting you. You just can't jump into a small business and expect it to immediately take off and you quit your job and you have no experience at all with your small business. There needs to be backup money in that case, but what I would recommend really is to have your business up and running for a solid 2 years before you really make that leap. It's not even about time, really. It's really about money. Like, once your business is at a level where you're actually making enough to support yourself, you're looking at your bills and everything that you need, then maybe it's time. But I just wouldn't recommend it. You could put yourself in a seriously sticky situation. You may want to do this other job, this small business on the weekends after work. Think of it like your hobby at this time. And just do that for a while. Try to drum up interest. This is where you're going to be working on the next steps. You don't just want to go full force in. I think sometimes people get really excited about their new venture. You just really want to make sure that this thing is going to stick. If you are totally unsure of what you could be interested in, I would recommend just maybe making a list of things that you were interested in as a child. Make a list of things you could see yourself being interested in, and then try to see the communities that exist in your neighborhood. Let's say you wanted to be a real estate agent. Maybe you know a real estate agent. Maybe you have a friend of a friend who knows a real estate agent. You could ask them if they'd be willing to like show you around a day of what they were doing. You could even pay them. You could say, hey, I'll give you $50 or $100. When you're starting your small business, you need to have money saved away for your business. You're going to need some startup money, even if it's just the supplies, the tools, and some things like that. You can try to budget that in while you still have a full-time job. Like, are you prepared to not make any money? To put all of your money back into the business for a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even longer. This needs to be such a passion that you don't mind that you're just breaking even. That's how much of a passion it needs to be. I'm not saying that you're not going to make money. It's very possible that in your very first month that you make thousands of dollars. That's completely possible. What I'm saying is, it needs to be such a passion that you're willing to lose money because it's like a hobby to you. That's how much it should excite you, this passion. It shouldn't be something like, oh, I kind of like this. You'll be doing this for a really long time if it works out. So it should be something that the second that you start doing it, you want to research, you want to join the Reddit and the Facebook groups. You want to be learning as much information about this subject. You want to be talking to people about this subject. You want to find that community. Like, let's say you want to be a DJ and you're just like, who else makes bass music in my area? Who can I talk to? It is so important during those first steps to really figure out where the community is and if it seems like a community that you would mesh well into. There's certain cases where, like, let's say like a real estate agent, maybe you could work completely on your own, but you're still going to need to know a lot of people, and you're going to have to drum up hype about your business over time. So you have to love houses. You have to love, you're on Zillow and you're on, all these different documents about houses and when they were built, and it should be that much of a passion, whatever you choose. There's always the possibility of going on Skillshare, YouTube, searching in some hobbies, candle making, painting. There's endless hobbies to think about. Be like henna, or even tattooing can be thought of as a small business. Even hairdressing can be thought of as a small business. With certain of these things that I've mentioned, like being a hairdresser, being a real estate agent, you need to take tests. You need to go to school. So, like I said, you really want to make sure that this is your true passion before you start making an LLC and going through all of the money that it takes to actually go through those courses and things like that. I would highly recommend trying to shadow someone, or get to know somebody that already does that for a living, and find out if it would suit your lifestyle. It's really important in those cases, to follow your intuition, make sure that you're really connecting and saying, is this right for me? Get inside your soul really and say, is this the right thing for me? It could just be a hobby. It doesn't have to be something that you make money off of. You don't have to scale a business out of something that you just enjoy to do artistically. And like I was saying before, take advantage of YouTube. Look up about what it's like to be a real estate agent, what it's like to be a DJ, what is it like to be a vendor, what is it like. You want to get as much information about this as possible. Something I would also recommend is kind of taking things that you like and putting it together. Like, I really was getting interested in essential oils and I was looking up all the uses for them, and I was also researching endlessly about witchcraft. So I put those two things together and I realized that I could make potion perfumes. I could put two things together and kind of create something that I had never seen before at the time. Let's say you're a DJ, you're taking two different forms of music that people don't typically put together. You just have a different way of thinking than everyone else. And that's the reality. You do have a different way of thinking than everyone else. You have something to add to the table. Even if you're doing something similar to someone else, you have your own special sauce, your way of doing things. And if something is really calling out to you and it's exciting you, maybe being an esthetician, massage therapy, try to do as much free research about it as you possibly can. Maybe even buy a book about it. But I found that, like, watching YouTube videos and doing a lot of research online was one of my favorite ways to figure out information about essential oils and witchcraft when I was in the beginning stages of my business. At the end of the day, really the answer is to just find something you love. It has to be something you absolutely love and something that you'd be willing to do every single day. Try things out, put things together, different ideas together. Spend a little bit of money at the beginning. With my essential oils, I kind of went wild. Like, I think I spent like $400 on essential oils when I first started getting into them, like within the first couple months. And it's like, I could have started with maybe the basic 10 or like the basic 5, or maybe get like a pack of essential oils. It's like the smaller ones. I didn't need to start with like, I went straight into like 4 milliliter bottle or 4 fluid ounce bottles and was immediately thinking like, I'm going to make something out of these that other people can have. And it could have started with just something for yourself. If there's not anything that you're thinking about specifically at this time, just start with yourself. Get that feel for what you're doing, and then make sure over maybe even a year's time that you're really passionate about it. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that you don't need to think about the name of your business right away. If you want to think about the logistics, like how much money you would be spending per product, how much money you would have to put in, like, into being a real estate agent or an esthetician or something like that. But the very first step is trying it on yourself, trying to make yourself a product, really understanding and seeing if that's something that you like doing, maybe giving some of it away as a gift. Yeah, just keeping it small, keeping it low key at first, and not really thinking too much on the business side, just making sure that it's something that you really love. And that really leads into my second point, which I actually said was produce your product, give it to people. So you're going to be building over time. You're going to want to refine your service or refine your product at this point. So still continuously doing research. You're going to want to be doing research throughout this entire process. Never stop learning about this passion of yours. Never stop talking to people that are in the field and talking to your friends. That is something I want to mention is that when you start a small business or even start making products or offering something to people, not even considering it a business at this point, people will put their 2 cents in, okay? Everyone and your mother will put their 2 cents in. And one thing I want you to realize is that you need to listen to people. People are your customers. At first, when people would give me all this advice, like, oh, you should make your bottles really pretty, you should use metal cap bottles, and oh, you should use tester samples, and you should give people samples, and oh, can you do this in a spray form? People would just constantly be giving me ideas. And guess what? I was constantly writing them down. At first, I was like, why are these people telling me what to do? This is my business. I had this very jaded mindset. You must move past that very quickly, because the people are the ones that are going to be buying your product and your service. So if they have some advice, take it into account. I'm not saying do every single thing that people say, but it is the advice from random people out there that has changed my business over time. I did get metal cap bottles. I did end up giving out testers. I did those things just because people had probably seen that with other fragrance companies. They are your eyes and ears out in the world. They see the other companies and other businesses and other products and other services, and they are comparing it endlessly to you. The people closest to you, like your mom and your best friends, really take their advice into consideration. To refine your product and refine your service, they will be the greatest help, truly. You can also at this time look at other businesses yourself and see what they're doing. Always add your own flavor and mix together different aspects of who you are and different people that inspire you. And another example is tarot card reading for me. That is a service. That is something that I do get paid for. And for the first about 5 years of me doing tarot card readings, I offered them for free. First, I did them almost solely on myself. Then I started doing them for some of my closest friends. Then I started doing them at festivals for people, random people. And this is over years. This is like first year is just for me. Second year is for closest friends. Third year, I'm actually going out into the world, still offering this service for free. It wasn't until year 5 that I said, I feel that I'm at a really strong level and understanding of this service, and I think that I'm at the point now I feel very comfortable charging money for this service, because I know throughout the years that it was a good service for people when it was free. And at this point in stage number 2, I would highly recommend really grounding yourself into the community, into the social circles that exist. If you, like, using the example of my business again, I would want to vend at events where people are interested in herbal products, maybe people that are interested in yoga or interested in massage therapy. You're figuring out where those communities are, and then maybe you want to take place in the events that are happening. You don't need to be a vendor at these events. You don't need to be offering your service at these events. But you can go around to the vendors, talk to them. They might have some really good information for you. You might meet somebody that works at the event and say, hey, I've been thinking about doing this. You'd be surprised. There are people out there that are like, hey, it's your first time. You can come next time for free. There are good people out there that want to see new businesses succeed. In the last part of this section, I just want to mention that I think it's really good time to get the actual price into place. You're offering it for free, but you really should know, how much does this product cost me per product? If you're making candles, how much did the soy wax cost? How many candles does it create? And you divide that out. You think about every single thing that needs to be purchased, the wicks, glass containers, the fragrance, every single thing that needs to be purchased to put into that. And not only that, you're going to want to think about startup costs and time. You want to pay yourself for time. So just get a rough estimate of how much this product is really costing you before you go out and actually begin selling the product. Because if you sell it at a really, really low price at first, then it may be a little bit more difficult for you to start upping that price over time unless you're really refining that product over time. Like I was using plastic cap bottles and then I started using metal cap bottles, so I upped my product price at that point. I might want to do some research at this time about return on investment and profit margins and things like that, just to get your toes in the water really about how much money can you really be making off of each of these products or services, and is it something that you're willing to really invest your time and money in going forward. And that brings me to step number 3. This is when I would finally begin really setting that name into stone, getting those Instagram, social media up and running. I really highly recommend Instagram for businesses. I feel like it's basically like your business card and a lot of information about who you are as a business. It takes time to grow these platforms. It takes a lot of time and it takes community. You're going to want to ask your best friends, hey, can you share my posts? Can you invite your friends? That would mean the absolute world to me. You're going to be leaning on the people closest to you in the very beginning. They're going to be the ones that are supporting you the most. And a few outliers, usually, I always notice, it was some people that I've met just one time, and now I'm like so close with them because they continuously supported me throughout the beginning of my business. And when you're thinking about name, you're thinking about colors that you want to convey. You're thinking about branding. What type of logo do you think? Could you make the logo yourself on Canva? Do you know anybody that would be willing to maybe offer their service? You know, that's a service in itself, graphic design. That could be something that you were interested in. So maybe you would have created your logo at the very beginning because you want to show your product, right? So every business is going to have different really steps along the way, which is why I said that it is really important to actually find someone that is in your niche. Whether say you are a graphic designer, you may want to go to how I started my graphic designing business on YouTube and really find out more about what it's like to start in that particular area. Take your time with setting these social medias up. You don't need to rush. You will be refining everything over time. The product, the service, the website, every single aspect, the logos, everything will be refined over time. Look at Google, look at Apple. They've refined their logos over time. They've refined everything about their systems over time. It's okay to change and morph and grow and become better over time. It doesn't need to be perfect when you first start. Your logo can be simple when you first start. It could even just be a picture of your product when you first start, just to get yourself an awareness of your business on the social platforms, because having your social medias will remind people, hey, I'm here. Hey, I do this. Hey, you can buy this service or product from me. And so much of my business is because somebody saw something on a social media. And then I'd say the other half of my business is vending, is in-person sales. And once you have your social media set up, I would say that it's definitely a good time to start thinking about things like business cards as well. I think business cards are a really, really good way to get your business out there to more people. It's not something you absolutely have to do. I think it is a really good second step after setting up those social medias and getting that logo in place, at least your original logo, your first logo, because you can get business cards for fairly cheap. You can find business cards for $20 online. Yeah, my boyfriend and I use Vistaprint, and if you choose the one-sided option, it can be really fair price. So I do think that it is a good place to put your money into. And don't be afraid to put, $100, $200 into a really good logo if you have that money and you have that saved. I do think that a good logo can be very eye-catching on social media's business cards, and if you're scaling up onto your website and further in, maybe in vending or eventually possibly a storefront. But if you don't have the money, like I said, don't feel bad. Don't feel like it has to be perfect the very first time. Okay, and on to step number 4. This is when you're going to start thinking about marketing. You're going to want to do research about marketing. How do other people get their products out? I found that giveaways have been really helpful for me growing my online presence, and I've also found that vending in person really grows my presence in a community, and people seem to remember me and want to buy my product over and over again, even find me on my socials, and then eventually go to my website. This section, you may want to start thinking about, am I going to sell on Etsy? Am I going to create my own website? What are the different website platforms? This is going to be the time when you're really focusing on how to make money from this and how to market this, which communities you're really, really honing in on, where you should be, who you should be talking to, and also the other side of this step, I feel, is focusing on maybe getting your LLC. That can cost about like $100 to $200, and it is renewed every year. So it is something that you're going to have to know. I am going to be making over $200 profit. Not making over $200 profit, then there's really no point in you getting an LLC at this time. You can get an LLC and then, do your taxes and show losses. But if you show losses year after year, they're going to say that it's just a hobby. This time, you're going to want to think about insurance. And in reality, this step is maybe 3 years into my business, So if you're at an earlier step in this process, if you're in the I'm still finding my passions, then you don't even need to be thinking about this type of thing first. It's like full stop. Go back to the beginning and really hone in on your passions. Figure out what you want to do. Spend that $20 here and there. Spend that $200 if you can on something like maybe doing your eyelashes at home if you want to be an esthetician. Go back and figure that all out. Take your time, even if it's a year, 2 years, 3 years of you figuring out your passions. Do that first. Don't think about a million steps ahead. You can come back to this video if you have not figured out your passions yet, or if you're in the very beginning where you've found out your passions and you're just creating these things for yourself and a few close friends. You don't need to be thinking about your LLC yet. You don't need to be thinking about your business insurance really at this time. It is just a hobby, and it is considered that way in taxes. So if you want to show your startup cost the first year, have your LLC, and then you can actually report those losses the next year and get a tax deduction. So there are reasons why you would want to start your LLC super early into your business, but that's something that you really have to do your own personal research on and figure out how it applies to the business that you're trying to create. I'm just telling you that there's just no reason to, at the very beginning stages, like you start making candles and you say, I'm going to make a logo, make my website, and I'm going to do all this stuff, and you just started making these things. You haven't been doing it for over a year. I just don't think that that's the way that a business should be scaled. I really think that it's important to have these steps and stages and take your time. because you could start doing all of this and it gets so overwhelming. Like, you all of a sudden decide, I have all this product, I want to start a store, or something like that, and you may get in way far over your head and have a lot of expenses and things that you weren't aware of in the beginning. So I think it's good to really start doing this out of your own home at first. You don't need an office space. Try to figure out how you can make that self-contained and something that you can do in your free time at first. And this is where you may want to make your product more beautiful. You may want to make your marketing more beautiful. Maybe even start advertisements if you're at that level. That might be kind of later on in this section if you really want to put some money into that. See how they perform. And this is where you're really, really going to be focusing on refining and the business aspects of your business. So the first step, passions. Second step, making it for yourself, giving it to a few friends. Third step, logos, kind of getting your socials together. And then the fourth step is really refining, getting that business mind down, really, really, really researching about business and researching about your product. What are the laws behind your product? Very important. What is the safety measures that need to be taken? With my products, I absolutely must put an ingredient list. If not on the bottle, it has to be in a box. And that is something that I had to create and refine the process of getting the box. Where are you going to be sourcing these things? Can you source them from a different place? Maybe you're getting glass for your candles. Is there somewhere you can get it for cheaper, the same quality? Is there someone that will be able to ship to you sooner? These are the type of things that I'm talking about, where you're really refining your business mind and your business overall. And finally, number 5, at this point, you already have a fully functioning business. You have an LLC. You may be selling on a free website or your website that you built yourself. You may be running multiple different social media platforms and keeping those up to date at this time. And maybe you've run a couple ads or two. This is where you're going to want to think about, how can I refine my advertising? How can I work with others? Can I get my products in a store? Can I talk to others, maybe influencers? Would they want my product for free? Would they talk about it to others? How can you be scaling this? Think about the website that you choose. I started with Etsy, and then I decided to transfer everything over to Shopify. And the reason I chose Shopify is because they are really easily linkable to Amazon. And I thought, well, Amazon accepts homemade products. Once I have enough inventory, I could eventually sell on Amazon. So I thought, why not choose something that's going to be able to be linked in the future? Going to want to think about the future, but also be changing. Like, I thought that's a possibility that I could have been on Etsy forever. It wasn't until, I wasn't working out with them that I figured I'm going to start my own thing. That was 3-4 years into my business that I decided, this isn't working out for me. You're constantly refining. You may say, I seem to be getting more sales from Instagram, or I seem to be getting more sales in this area of the city. At this point, you're thinking about the back end of things. You're thinking about, how can I tag things properly? Where should my time and energy be going that's going to get me the most amount of money? You may spend hours and hours and hours writing a blog post, but is that really going to make you money? It depends. I could spend hours and hours making jewelry and perfume, and I know that those things are going to make me money in the long run. They're things that people will purchase, and they have purchased year after year. Where is your daily time being spent? You're figuring out your taxes. You're figuring out how much money you're making. Are you making enough to support yourself? At this point, you may still be doing this on the weekends and after work, because you may be bringing in $2,000 a month, and that's still not enough to support you and maybe your family. At this point, you're just thinking about how can you scale this? How can you change this? Who should you be advertising to? How much money should you be spending on things? At this point in the business, this is where I would be vending regularly. I would be finding as many events as I possibly can to vend, get my name out there in the community. But vending might not be the perfect opportunity for you. You may be an all online sales type of person. Then you may realize that, wow, on TikTok, I seem to get 10,000 views on my videos. Maybe I should be spending more time on that. It's a funnel. Where can my time be spent that I'm sure that I will receive money from this? Figure out what is creating the most income for you. At this point in the process, you should really be focusing on how much money it takes to run your business, where you're focusing your time, and also who you want to work with. And this is really when you're going to want to figure out, what do you want to outsource? Do you want to have somebody else do your taxes? Do you want to have somebody else come on to work with your social media? Totally depends on how much money you're making at this time. Would you be willing to vend with somebody else? Or is there somebody else in your community that you think really suits your business? Would you want to have somebody work with you? These are all things you're going to want to think about at this time. Really think about how you can scale this business over time. Think about the future of this business. Could you eventually have more people doing the service that you offer underneath your business? Could you eventually be selling this in a line of stores that exist? But at the end of the day, there's only one real question that remains, and it is, are you still enjoying this? Are you still loving it? Is it something you really want to share with the world? Are you passionate about it? Is it causing you immense stress? It may be time to put this business to a stop if it's something that you've realized over the years has caused you so much stress, or maybe you want to shift away from an aspect. You always want to be growing, changing, and doing research. Let me know what stage of the process and what your business is about down below as well. I would love to hear about it. Like I said, it really depends on the product or service that you're offering. So please continuously do research throughout all of these steps and continuously be assessing if it is something that is really still inspiring you and just bringing joy to your heart, because that at the end of the day is the most important part. That's the reason why you start your own business, because you want to do something that makes you happy and is exciting. I will leave all the information about my business down below. You can find me at illusionelixirs.com. That actually reminds me, that's something I wanted to talk about in step 5, is that think outside the box a little bit. I thought outside the box a little bit with this YouTube channel. I thought, I can do something I love to do, tarot, as a hobby, and also occasionally mention my business and maybe grow my social medias on a different platform that I hadn't been thinking about before. I've worked with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and I thought, why not branch out? So you always want to be branching out, thinking about where you can post about your product. Can you post about it on Google Maps? Can you post about it on some sort of fun event page that exists in your area? Be very creative. Think about the groups and the places that you can be growing your product. Think about what your customers and clients want to see. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope that this video was informative to you. Love you. Bye, everybody.